right, Amy, I turned it on.
Hi.
Hey, what are you working on right now?
So in the mail yesterday, we got information to complete the census. So I'm assuming, particularly those of you in Texas, would have also gotten it maybe in the last few days. And so it sends you directions. You complete it online. And so they send you, I'm not going to show my code, but it sends you a 12-digit code that you type into my2020census.gov, and it says it's going to take about 10 minutes. I've maybe started it 2 minutes ago, and I'll probably finish it once we're done with this live stream. But Beto is
Really
about
important
to join us.
Yes, really important that everybody fill this out, right?
Yeah, no, like absolutely critical that everybody fills this out. It's really important that every community has an accurate count of the number of people living within that community. It dictates, how much federal funding gets allocated to provide critical services within a community, and so we want to make sure that we're getting an accurate count with that. So fill it out. Encourage all of your family members and friends to look for that letter in the mail and to do the same.
And if you're like us, you probably have some extra time to fill out the census right now, as you are, if you're home, if you're not at work, if you are spending time with your kids who in El Paso are on spring break, and now they're on what is essentially a 3-week spring break, but may be extended beyond that. Great time to fill out your census form. It's important for you and your family. It's important for your community in terms of the resources that come in, ensuring that there's a proper accounting of everyone, so that the diversity of our population is reflected and represented at a federal level. And then when it comes to political representation, when it comes to apportionment and state house districts and congressional districts, this information all comes into play. So really important that everybody fill that out right now. We want to wish everyone a very happy St. Patrick's Day. This is my father, Pat O'Rourke's patron saint, and Amy's wearing his St. Patrick's Day 3rd annual 1980 Trans Mountain Run, which he would do every year, and in true Pat O'Rourke style.
Do you drink beers along the way?
They would have a little card table set up. This was a 10-mile run that went over Trans Mountain Road, and if you're from El Paso, you know how challenging that is. If you're not, you're starting at an elevation of about 4,000 feet, and I don't know how many hundreds of feet you climb. You go up a mountain pass and come down the other side. So they'd set up a little card table. He and Maxon would drink beers and Irish whiskey together. And then I have heard some years they would carry a bottle of Irish whiskey with them along the way and drink the whole thing. And how...
I mean, that may be the only way to get through it. That would be brutally painful. There's no way.
That would be your preferred way of doing it. It would deaden the pain enough that you could do 10 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, good thing that you're wearing the shirt, because that's the spirit of the St. Patrick's Day.
And then this is Beto's somewhat pathetic attempt at St. Patrick's Day.
I thought about this... wearing this green handkerchief as a cravat, which was even more ridiculous. So we didn't do that. So we want to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. Typically, you might find us at the Cincinnati Club or a local bar, having beers with friends, or at somebody's house, thinking about the Crowleys, our friends from Ireland who live in Sunset Heights. But I think this year, incredibly important that everyone just stay at home and stay with your family and don't socialize, don't go out. Some places bars are closed. I just learned that bars are closed in El Paso. I think that's an elected decision happening in different communities across the country. But wherever you are, whether it's allowed or not, don't go to a bar, don't go to a restaurant, don't go out if you can help it. Stay at home. And it's really important that everyone remember that it's not only for your own health, and so in our case, the health of Amy, myself, our 3 kids, but for our parents, who are in their 70s. And for other people that we may know and unwittingly infect and carry the virus, just stay at home. Do not be with other people right now. And if you find yourself where there are other people, keep your distance from them. We've had a couple of socially painful experiences. We'll tell you about this in a second, but Amy took us all on our bikes today down to El Paso High to go run some laps on the track and to time us in the 1600 and the 400 meter races that she'd set up. And we saw someone that we know. We had the track to ourselves. Someone came down and their first impulse, as it would be mine in any other time, is to shake hands. And it was really painful for me not to respond as a politician to that offer for a handshake and instead offer the elbow. But that's what we've got to do right now. And literally the way to break this down is people's lives are depending on us doing what might be socially awkward or uncomfortable or even a little bit boring and staying at home, but totally necessary if we are going to flatten the curve of the spike in transmissions of coronavirus. So rule number one, stay at home, keep your distance from...
And not just tonight because of St. Patrick's Day, but
that's
really,
right.
Like every day going forward until we're advised that it's safe not to. And some people are going to have to go to work, and we understand that. But if you're able to stay at home and not have play dates, not have dinner with friends, it's painful. It can be boring.
Right.
We've had to explain it to the kids over and over again why we're doing this, but it really is the only way to prevent the spike that will absolutely take down our healthcare system if too many people acquire coronavirus at the same time and are seeking care at our hospitals. And really, like, I think about my sister Christina and Nick in New York City who are frontline treating patients. It's only fair to them to try to do everything that we can to lessen that load of people coming into them.
Yeah, there are not enough ventilators. We're hearing in some cities. Inexplicably, the United States government, this is from something that I just read, has not made a purchase from domestic manufacturer of ventilators, in much the same way that the United States does not have enough testing kits available. My understanding, and Micah just sent me this number and said she had it sourced yesterday, Monday, only 439 tests have been performed in the state of Texas so far. This is a state of 28 million people where we do have coronavirus. I think we have 3 reported cases in El Paso so far and in other parts of the state. So we don't have a lot of control over what the administration does or in this case fails to do, but we can control our own behavior. And I think that's the thing that we want to stress. Today. I don't know if, in addition to bringing up the feed so that we can answer questions, or just we want to also find out what you're doing right now, how this is affecting your life, maybe some best practices that you want to share with others. But I thought you could, if you could on your phone, or I could do it here, I'm going to bring up this great Washington Post graphic on how the coronavirus spreads. And if you want to read some comments that are coming in. This is Team Beto and Amy trying to manage us. Cynthia, where are you right now?
She can't be with us right now.
I know.
She's social distancing.
She is social distancing.
So we're really lucky here in El Paso that we've got this incredible mountain range that comes right down the middle of our city. And so on Sunday, we took the kids to the northeast.
Tell them the name of the hill that we took them to.
The hill, which was a little daunting, was called Cardiac Hill.
Yeah.
But we had seen some incredible pictures from some people that had done the hike the day before, and right now the poppies are blooming, and so the mountainside is just covered in yellow, and it's just spectacular. And I've never, I've driven past it, but I had never stopped to see the poppies up close. And so we took the kids, and they are usually great hikers if we are with some of their friends.
Right, they need a distraction.
If it's just the 3 of them, they will fight with each other, or they'll just whine a little bit. And so at the end of the hike, we said, all right, this was beautiful, but somewhat painful because of their attitudes. So we're going to hike every single day that we can. And so yesterday...
So if you don't like this, we're just going to do more of it, is basically the parenting philosophy. Right?
Yeah. But lucky that we get to do that. So yesterday we went on a hike called 10,000 Steps, which was tough.
That was really tough.
But no one complained. Everyone was awesome.
And we ran the entire back half of it down. And, Henry is only 9 years old. And he and Molly ran probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles of that.
Yeah.
Not easy terrain, but it was great. And then we came back to the house exhausted.
Yeah.
Having not encountered anybody, at least, we saw some people 30 feet away.
Yeah.
But came back exhausted and then watched Lord of the Rings.
Right. And Ulysses, who, for fear of complaining, didn't complain, but had a cactus needle in the bottom of his foot for half the hike.
We also downloaded an app that identifies every plant.
What's the name of the app?
Well, it's on my phone. It's live streaming right now, so I can't look it up. But it's an app, and it tells you. So we the Spanish daggers that kind of define the landscape of the Franklin Mountains are in bloom right now, and someone may know what it is that this flowering that comes out of the center of it that's just beautiful. It's like a crown at the top of the Spanish daggers. There was the rainbow cactus. I wish I had my phone so I could show you the pictures of this. There was the...
you probably can show it.
I could probably show it on here. There is what is known as Graham's nipple cactus.
Which
I'm not making that
funny.
up. I think that's funny. Let me see. There's the chicken I made last night or the night before last. So here's your Spanish dagger, which hopefully you can see. And you can see that, flowering that's taking place in the center of it. I'm seeing on the delayed stream whether this is showing up. Let me go through my different cacti. Here's an example of that in full bloom.
Yeah, you can see it.
There's some other cactus. This is like when you go to a friend's house and they're like wanting to show you all their hiking pictures. Sorry. Okay, this was a barrel cactus. What was this called?
A devil's head.
A devil's head. This is a devil's head. If you want to know what a devil's head looked like. This is the flora of the Chihuahuan Desert, Franklin Mountains in El Paso, Texas, all of which you can see when you're staying at home. And then this is the rainbow cactus. Really beautiful. Oops, I accidentally showed a picture of mine in there. Okay, now look here. I want to get serious again and show you some coronavirus action.
So what we've heard is it's great to get outside and walk, go for a hike, get your exercise and get out of the house. Just do it in such a way where you're not around other people. And so that's what we've been trying to do. Just spend a good chunk of time outside every day. The kids have been playing basketball in our backyard. We created this 4-square, what did Molly call it?
I forget.
Monster ball.
Yeah, there's a variation
game,
on this.
Which has been really fun. So, and then otherwise we've just been at home, cooking, watching movies. I told the kids next week we're going to start homeschool, which they're both somewhat intrigued by and also very afraid.
Be very afraid. Okay, so why do we stay at home? Amy got a text message from a good friend who said, hey, I'm letting my kids play with other neighborhood kids. Kids seem to be immune from this, so no harm, right? Wrong. And here's why. There's a great simulation on the Washington Post website that I'm going to play for you right here through my handheld graphics of my iPad. So every single dot here that you see is so these green dots are people who are not infected. Red dots are infected. This is everyone just running around, business as normal, infecting each other. And in this model, everyone gets infected. And you can see the infection curve right there goes all the way to the top, and then people start to turn purple, if you can follow these colors, as they recover from coronavirus, right? So in that scenario, everyone gets infected because everyone's hanging out with everybody else. Okay, this shows a partial quarantine. So on the left side of the screen, you see people quarantined, but look, the quarantine isn't perfect. So people are able to sneak through or just go through in their day-to-day lives. They're infecting others. And again, look at that curve at the top. It takes a little bit longer, but you infect a lot of people. And again, as people turn purple, that means that they've recovered from the virus and they're no longer able to infect new people. Okay, so now this is where it gets interesting. This is with some social distancing. So you can see only some people are moving around. Other people, like the O'Rourke's, are staying at home. And you can see, look at how flat that curve is right there. And people begin to recover in time. They're the people moving around who were sick have recovered. And so not everyone gets sick. And then this is where lots of people stay at home. This is what we're advocating. Just do not go out. Don't hang out with people. Don't shake hands. Don't touch anybody. Don't leave the home unless you absolutely have to. And look at all the people who remain green, which means uninfected. That's what we're trying to practice right here. So whether it's you, whether it's your kids, whether it's your folks, whether it's your neighbors, anyone in your life, urge them to stay at home. And that way we slow the spread of this transmission. People who are infected have time to recover. They are no longer transmitting. And we also buy ourselves long-term the time, hopefully to come up with a vaccine so that, 2 years from now, as coronavirus still, poses a challenge to this country and the planet, we have some defenses against it. So just cannot stress this enough. And in fact, the whole impetus for this live stream was a text we got from our friend Mariam. Remember Mariam, who led our policy effort on the Senate campaign, just a really amazing person, good friend. And she said, even in her life, she's a policy person in DC, working with other really smart people. She's just not seeing a strict enough adoption of this social distancing, of just not, unless it's your wife and it's the person you live with, or your husband or your kids. Do not touch anybody. Don't be within 6 feet of anybody, and don't go out if you can at all help from going out. A couple of other ideas that we wanted to share. Amy and I will be volunteering at the El Paso Food Bank tomorrow. There are a lot of people who depend on these food banks and food pantries to get the calories they need literally to survive. And many of those food banks and food pantries still depend on volunteer labor. And as you can imagine, fewer volunteers are showing up right now for good reason. Our local food bank has set up a system by which all the volunteers can keep the necessary spacing from one another so we don't run the risk of infecting each other. And to further diminish that risk, we're going to be constantly washing our hands and putting hand sanitizer on them.
And they're limiting the number of volunteers so that it's just what they need to get the work done and no more.
Right.
So they have a conveyor belt set up and you're spaced 6 to 8 feet apart from the person next to you, and you're just loading the boxes with whatever food item is you're designated to.
Right. You can also make a financial contribution to your food bank. You can also make one to Meals on Wheels. This is obviously a very trying time for those who have coronavirus and are suffering from it. And it's a very trying time for those whose lives have been interrupted or negatively affected by coronavirus and the fact that people are staying at home and it's harder to get the help that you need or the resources that would otherwise be available. So if you can donate time, if you can donate money to those who need that help, that would be wonderful. It's also worth reaching out to your U.S. Senator, members of Congress, to make sure that the House passed aid package is expedited, and that we get sick leave, we get other financial and medical resources to those who need them in our communities. And so if you can reach out in that way, I think that is really helpful as well.
So someone just asked, and it went by really quickly, so they said that they're 60 or over 60, should they still consider volunteering at the food bank? So what we've heard from our food bank is that they are really trying to encourage, they've even done an exception to allow like our kids to go help, because they want to make sure that the volunteers are the ones that are least vulnerable. So, maybe consider sending a monetary donation. And I know some food banks are not accepting food directly, just monetary donations. And I've heard that they can, with $1, provide 7 meals. So they've got it down, and so prefer the money versus the direct contribution of food.
Absolutely. We, I think we tweeted something about this in the last couple of days, including that Washington Post graphic that I just tried to share with you ham-handedly. But we also included a link to give to food banks. Please make a donation to either your local food bank or to the national organization that coordinates all of this. And again, I put that link on our Twitter page. You can also give to Meals on Wheels. And frankly, you're engaged, involved. You probably know who needs the help in your community. Choose to donate in that fashion. But this is a time to be generous. A couple of other obvious things, but bear repeating. Don't buy all the food off the shelves. Someone, I was reading an opinion piece today, made a very good case for, rationing what you're able to buy out of grocery stores so that there's still stuff there for other people who need it. There's not a run nationally on our food supply. We produce this stuff domestically by and large. We don't import it from the rest of the world. So we're not constrained in that way. There's no need to stock up for the apocalypse. That is not happening. So please be considerate of other people, those who will follow you in the store, and only buy what you need for a relatively short term. And you can go back to the grocery store in a couple of days and buy again for your family. I think that's really important, that we be kind and thoughtful towards one another. Couple things that we're going to do over the coming days. We'll probably watch more movies, play more video games. We want to volunteer some time. We might also volunteer ourselves and our kids in a program called Postcards to Voters. As you know, elections are still taking place, and we're still getting ready for November 2020. This present crisis does not diminish the importance of this election year. And if you can't knock on doors, if you can't otherwise be politically engaged, you might be able to send postcards out to voters. And there's a great program called Postcards to Voters that we're members of that you might want to think about joining. This might be a time to work on your pinto bean game. I just made a pound of beans last night, and I had them for lunch, and they were so good. Did you have any?
I haven't had them yet.
What's so funny about pinto beans?
Your pride.
I
pinto beans.
Yeah, my beans are getting so much better, and they're so easy to make. And if you're at home anyhow, and you have time to do the slow cooker, which is about 7.5 hours for my particular version of pinto beans, make the most of it. We also, a couple other ideas, taking us to the track today at El Paso High, riding bikes to get there, and then the long jump. I don't know if you want to share any, well, you have it on that camera, huh?
I'm not showing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy took some slow motion videos of all of us doing
I
that.
didn't even make it to the sand. It was sad. It was really pathetic.
Yeah, you just have to work on it. It's just a function of practice and timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you did a good job. Any questions coming in? Anything that you want to share in terms of what's going on in your community, the way that you are staying at home and what you're doing with your family, your best social distancing practices?
Can you repeat that bean recipe really quickly?
Well, I didn't share the bean recipe, but I'm happy to share it right now. So you get here. In fact, I got it right here. This is the, the crock pot that I put 7.5 cups of water in, 2 teaspoons of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a pound of beans, rinsed and picked through, because sometimes there'll be little stones or branches. Get that stuff out. And then you literally put it on for 7.5 hours at low heat, and you've got an amazing batch of pinto beans ready to go. I also made Melissa O'Rourke's famous lemon chicken. Was that last night?
Yeah.
Last night. And I thought it was pretty good. It did not seem to be the greatest hit with the family, but we've been doing a lot of cooking at home. You made a quiche.
I did.
With green chili and cheese, and it was so good. I had that this morning for breakfast, along with some oats. What else? Anything else coming in?
Well, some people have stocked up on beans, and so they're excited to try your bean recipe. Do you want to talk about, you talked about postcards to voters, but our idea about trying to recruit people to phone bank over the next few weeks as we're sitting at home.
So for those who have volunteered with or interested in volunteering with Powered by People, obviously first things first, want to make sure everyone is safe. Everyone's keeping a distance from one another. But as you look to be productive and effective from home, and you're interested in what's going on politically in this country and with our elections, we really want to see if we can complement a model that was heavily reliant on knocking on doors, which I don't think anybody wants to do and don't think it makes a lot of sense right now, with one that is more reliant on connecting with people digitally through phones and through text. That's something that we will pursue, both to remind voters about important upcoming elections and also to help register people to vote who are not registered in Texas. So those are 2 areas that Powered by People will be focused on. Again, the idea behind doing this live stream today is not to talk too much about politics or Powered by People, but if you were wondering what we were doing, that's what we're focused on. We had a chance to hear from a lot of our strongest volunteers over the last 4 or 5 weeks about things that they'd like to see Powered by People do, and we heard both direct voter engagement and focusing on voter registration as 2 important areas.
So this might be the best comment. Can we get a live streamed O'Rourke family concert? I'd love to hear Amy sing.
Yeah.
So
yes, we can.
That's like the last thing that you'll ever want to hear. It's about as bad as watching me do the long jump at the track. I'm not.
Honestly, that was bad. that was really bad.
Well, the singing would be worse.
No, yeah. I've heard you sing.
No, it'd be bad. Yeah. But yes, we can put on a concert minus me singing.
Yes. Well, that's it. We really just wanted to check in, and we wanted to just remind everybody of what you probably already know, but a point that bears repeating. Stay away from each other. Stay at home. Be good to one another. Check in on your older neighbors, on your older relatives. Amy and I have been doing that, and even when folks say, well, there's really nothing that I need right now, I know that they appreciate the check-in and the fact that you're thinking about them. And if there's some silver lining in this, if there's a way that it brings out even more decency and kindness amongst one another, then let's do that.
And also just a show of kindness and gratitude to all the people that can't stay home, the doctors, the nurses, people working in the grocery stores,
stocking the shelves, manning the registers, the folks who are in restaurants right now who are preparing takeout orders when you're not allowed to dine in, but you are reliant on that person bringing food to your house. I saw a story today about a single mom whose only job is delivering that food, and how anxious she is right now because she's worried about her health, the health of her family, her employment, her income. And I'm seeing some encouraging signs that the federal government may begin to address the financial and economic needs of the hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Americans who will be severely negatively impacted by this. That's good, but again, it doesn't hurt for you to keep up the pressure on your elected representatives to make sure that they actually follow through with some of the ideas that we're hearing about right now. But yeah, our thanks to everyone who's doing the best that they can right now at this incredibly important time, and to everyone who's willing to take the common sense measures of keeping distance from one another. Cannot stress that enough. It is the most effective, best proven way of reducing the spread of coronavirus and reducing the number of people who will be affected from it and the number of people who will die from this. And can't think of anything that's more important at this moment.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, and we'll tune back in the coming days. We'll give you an update from Casa O'Rourke in terms of what we've been able to do. I was just talking to somebody today who said, well, we've exhausted all the crafts in our house and all the home repair projects. And I thought they're much better parents than we are, because we've
well, Molly's in there doing crafts right now.
Molly's doing crafts, but there's a lot of video games, a lot of movies, and some hiking and long jumping involved, and some bean making. But yeah, we'll give you all an update. We'd love to get an update from you. Thanks also for all the nice wishes of people who have been checking in on us. We want to make sure we're checking in on you too. So be well, be good, be kind to one another, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Shlancha, I poured you a beer.
There's been requests for more TikTok.
More TikTok. Here's to you.
Cheers.
Shlancha.
Happy St. Patrick's.
All right, Amy, you're going to have to drink alone while I go turn the camera off.
Very good. This is good. I like it.
You do?
Yeah.
It's an IPA.
It's got a little citrus.